You know, if the devil wanted to take down, destroy society, weaken men, and rip apart families, he wouldn't need an army. He would use something much more subtle and insidious. And in fact, it's playing out in our world today. In this episode of The Rebuilt Man, I want to break down the 7 ways that the devil is using pornography to weaken men and how this silent killer is tearing apart the very fabric of our lives and our communities. Now, if you're struggling with pornography addiction, one of the quickest weapons, one of the strongest weapons that you can use to fight the devil, to fight pornography, to find freedom in your life is a community of men. My great friend Sathya Sam says pornography is an intimacy disorder, and in order to find our freedom, we must expand our capacity to create intimacy in our lives. So what we've done here at The Rebuilt Man is we've just launched a brand new free school community. If you visit school.com/The Rebuilt Man or click the link down there in the show notes below, you can join us inside this exclusive free community of like-minded men all across the world that are aiming to become better men by quitting porn and rebuilding their lives. But how is the devil using porn as a weapon? How is the devil tearing apart families, lives, destroying relationships, and ripping the fabric of our nation and of our societies? I believe there's 7 ways that he's doing it. The first one is he's using porn to destroy masculine purpose. Yes, porn does pull you away from your God-given mission. It makes you seek easy, instant gratification over purposeful and meaningful work. And without purpose, men drift. They lose ambition and they fail to step up as leaders. And we know a generation of lost men leads to weaker families, broken communities, and society in decline. I think we can all agree that we're seeing this play out in our world here today, how this weapon of pornography is being used to destroy men's masculine and God-given purposes. The devil uses porn to undermine relationships. Okay, porn creates a false expectations about sex and intimacy, causing men to disconnect emotionally from real relationships. It fosters a shallow view of women and intimacy. Now, broken relationships, divorces, and fatherless homes shatter the family union, which is the bedrock of society. We know statistics around children that are brought up and raised in fatherless homes are more likely to end up in prison, are more likely to end up as criminals, are more likely to perform less in school. Okay, so the devil is using this, man, and we have to realize that porn is not a real intimacy. It is not a real relationship, but it is taking us away from the purposeful and meaningful relationships in our lives. Now, the devil is using pornography to rewire the brains of men all across the world. We know that porn hijacks and rewires our brain's reward system, making it harder to enjoy the simple things in life. Over time, this leads to mental fog. It weakens your internal resolve. It keeps you trapped in this addiction. Now, when we have a generation of young men that are crippled by mental health issues, depression, anxiety, and addiction, it brings down the productivity. It brings down the resiliency of that generation and of that nation. Okay, if we don't have men that are ready to step up as leaders, if we don't have men that are ready to take on the responsibilities of those that came before them, where does our future lie? So the devil is using porn to rewire the brains and the reward systems of men all across the globe. The devil is also using pornography to weaken men's willpower. Pornography teaches you to seek quick, instant dopamine hits. This weakens your self-discipline. If you can't say no to porn, what else are you going to give into? Now, men who can't control themselves cannot control their destiny. Poor decision-making spreads across their health, their finances, their relationships, in every single area of their life. We talk here at The Rebuilt Man about the 5 pillars of a man's life: his faith, his fitness, his finance, his family, and ultimately his freedom. Weakened willpower prevents you from being able to fully take control of those areas and fully be able to step into your God-given calling. Now, the devil's also using pornography to fuel loneliness and isolation. We know that porn pushes you away from relationships. It pushes you into isolation. The more that you consume, the more disconnected you come from real human connection and community. Now, society full of lonely and isolated men becomes disconnected and lost, making everyone feel alone. We know the statistics of young men. 13% of young men admit to having not a single meaningful relationship in their life. We are in a loneliness and isolation epidemic, and porn is at the heart of it. And it's the devil's weapon that's doing it. Now, pornography and the devil is also encouraging exploitation. Pornography reduces women to objects of pleasure, feeding a culture of exploitation and disrespect. We can just point to OnlyFans as a clear sign of this. It promotes selfishness over real connection and real love. Now, this mindset of men of exploitation destroys respect, equality, safety. It increases and leads to the rates of more sexual abuse, violence, and exploitation in everyday life. And women are the subject of this as well. And women are beginning to see them as nothing more than sexual objects, because just like young boys, young girls are getting used to pornography at a very young age. And what they're being taught is that objectifying themselves is the pathway to finding happiness in relationships in their life. And we know this is not the case. So we have to be very clear, men, that the devil is using this to encourage the objectification and exploitation of women. Then the devil's also using pornography to divert you and pull you away from your faith, away from your spiritual focus. Porn distracts you from your faith, from your mission, and from your higher calling from God. It leads you away from God's purpose, drowning you in guilt and in shame. And men, without a spiritual grounding and footing in this world, society falls into chaos. It loses the values that hold everything together, such as integrity, justice, and morality. Men, if you're struggling and you feel lost, understand that this is not your fault. The devil has weaponized pornography, and he's been at this play for years, and this isn't the first time we've seen this happen in human history. This is a play that we should all know and be aware of. But what do we do from here? Okay, so there's these 7 things that are happening to us. How do we get out of this? Well, I mentioned at the beginning, the number one tool, the number one weapon for you to fight the devil, for you to fight pornography, is getting around a group of like-minded and supportive men. So join us inside of our brand new free school community, The Rebuilt Man. If you visit school.com/The Rebuilt Man, or click the link down there in the show notes below. We have access to 12-step trainings. We have a top 50 book recommended list. We have expert and bonus trainings, bi-weekly trainings and webinars, opportunities to pick up some Rebuilt recovery gear, chances to earn free calls, and for a very select few, the opportunity to fly into Tampa, Florida and spend a day with me. But be clear and be aware of the devil's agenda. He doesn't want you to succeed. He wants to rip apart our nation. He wants to rip apart our society. And one of the biggest weapons that he is using is pornography. Men, we have to take back control. We have to get freedom in our lives so that we can lead others to freedom just the same way. Coach Frank at The Rebuilt Man, founder of Rebuilt Recovery. Join us inside the school community, school.com/The Rebuilt Man, or it's linked down there in the show notes below. Hope this was valuable, guys. God bless you. We'll see you in the next one.